And I know the contract is done, but I think there's still a lot of confusion about what was going on with Shemar Stewart. We've seen some interviews with his agent, and his agent described it when he was on the Cincy Unfiltered podcast as a life insurance clause. That kind of, I think, left some people more confused than it did help. So maybe you can help us clarify things.
Yeah, I'd love to. I don't see it exactly the same way as Zach Heiler with his kind of comparing it to an insurance clause. I supported everything they were doing in principle. It was absolutely the right call in the beginning, and I would love to kind of dissect kind of how that played out, the whys, why nots, the haves, the have-nots, and how that went down.
Okay, yeah. So this contract, what is it, first of all? Because I think a lot of fans, including myself, from what we've read, it sounds like the Bengals were just saying, don't get arrested. And then Shemar and his team were like, well, I can't control that. And that was kind of concerning to some fans because, if you've got a player saying I can't control getting arrested, that's a little concerning for a whole bunch of other reasons. So,
yeah, I don't think both sides didn't really do justice to what was going on in the situation. Whether or not that was Mike Brown coming out at his, yearly luncheon and talking about, what is conduct detrimental to the club, and then giving the one solo example being, I don't want to pay a player that's in jail and not suiting up for my team. That absolutely is conduct detrimental to the club. There's no doubt about it. No agent will ever push back. No player will ever push back that if you go out and you commit a heinous crime or a crime that leads to incarceration, yes, that is going to be a triggering mechanism for voiding someone's guarantees. You have to remember, voiding of guarantees does not mean voiding of contract. They're not the same. Voiding of the guarantees just means that there's specific language in there that if a player defaults or has a triggering mechanism, that what was guaranteed is no longer guaranteed, and the clubs can kind of have an out if they so choose. Conduct detrimental to the club, however, is extremely vague. It is not something that as an attorney, as an agent, I want to see in any contract. And I guarantee you, if you ask Troy and Katie Blackburn, reciprocal, they don't want to see it in any subsequent business dealing that they do. And I'm not talking about conduct detrimental to the club. I'm talking about vague and ambiguous language. It's right. Contract 101. You do not put any language, or you do not agree to any language that is vague and ambiguous, not spelled out with specifics. Putting in there an incarceration clause is a specific. And yes, Bengals contracts have that specifically spelled out in their contracts. I saw it in Amaris Mims' contract. I believe it was in Miles Murphy's contract, Dax Hill's contract. So it's been in these first-round picks contracts in the past. That's not anything new. What was new, however, is in those previous first-round picks contracts, a voiding mechanism or a default, if triggered, would trigger only in that specific year. So if there was a term of incarceration, and specifically it said 72 hours or more, then that would create a default in that year. So in 2025, if one of those players goes out, gets arrested, and has a triggering mechanism for the Bengals to default on their guarantees, that guarantee would only go away in 2025. What they want to do is similar to what other teams around the league are doing, and that's voiding all future guarantees. Not just 2025, but 2025, 26, 27, 28, the life of that contract. And that's where Hiller and his team kind of pushed back. I don't know. I worked in insurance for a couple years before I even went to law school, and I didn't get that reference. I didn't understand it, but the principle behind it is absolutely you don't want to guarantee it. You don't want to set the precedent. You're not just looking out for yourself, but precedent is that if you establish it, future years are going to be subject to it as well. So he didn't want to be the one that agrees to it for nothing. And then 2026 first round pick is going to have to agree to it. 2027 first round pick is going to have to agree to it, absent some form of leverage that they're given, right? God forbid, I hope this isn't the case. But if they have the first overall pick next year, that first overall pick's probably going to say, I hold a lot of leverage here. I don't want that language. And he might get it out. If not, I think he'll have a better opportunity to get the scheduling breakdown of what Shemar Stewart ultimately got with his signing bonus more upfront than what he ultimately agreed to, which was a little over $500,000. Which brings us to kind of what the give and take was for why they were ultimately able to come to that agreement. I don't think it was a good concession by Stewart and his team. Ultimately, it had to be done. And I don't know if this was something that Stewart just said, hey, look, get me in camp. I just want to play football. I don't care anymore. And ultimately, this is what they just kind of said, we'll just do. I don't know that. But $500,000 up front from money that you're already going to get in 6 months isn't a large concession. It's really not. And if this was something worth holding out for, if this was on the table back in, I'll even say May, then it wasn't a good agreement in the middle of July. If that was something that the Bengals came to Stewart and his side and said, this is it, this is all we're willing to do, take it or leave it, and they said no, then I don't know. Not very good start, so to speak.
Yeah, I think that was also what left a lot of fans confused. Was they saw this huge drama spill out. All the NFL media was talking. They were talking about him going back to college, and then all of a sudden it's just this $50,000 advance on your, or $100,000, however much it was, just advance on your money that you're already going to get. It wasn't anything extra, and so that was very confusing.
Yeah, I honestly thought
we lost him, I think. See if we can.
It's always
He's back.
There we go. Hold on. I got to find a way to unmute.
A little bit of technical difficulties. That's no problem. Okay, we're back. I think.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. When I have a phone call come in, it totally takes you out of my AirPods and everything. And I put my phone on do not disturb, but they didn't care. So what we were talking about the concessions. I thought that concession was going to be larger. I thought in order for them to come to terms, that's what was needed to happen. They needed to figure out signing bonus schedule and concede on that a little bit. Not $500,000. I thought it was going to be upwards of maybe another $1 million, so $1.5 million more up front instead of in December, which ultimately wasn't the case. So I don't know if that's something they didn't even bring up as a possibility early on in the negotiations. Again, I have no idea, but that's something that should have been on the table from the start. Hey, you want this language in, we know you're going to have to give up something in order to get it, and this is what it's going to take. Instead, I think they said, no, heck no, take it out, don't put it in, which I agree. I do agree with them saying don't put it in. You have to go all the way back, little history lesson, all the way back to the CBA in 2011 on why these contracts are guaranteed in the first place. Remember, look back to before there was the rookie wage scale. You had Sam Bradford. Sam Bradford today, his contract that he signed in 2010 is still more valuable than the first overall pick, Cam Ward, that he signed this year. He has a larger AAV and a larger signing bonus in 2010. Think about how much the cap has ballooned since then. And you're telling me that we're not there yet, which is fine. That's fine. That's what they agreed on. The agreement and the concession, though, was, hey, we'll begrudgingly give up these high inflated rookie deals to get veterans more money because there'll be more money left over for the veterans on the salary cap. But in addition, fully guarantee the first round draft picks salaries. Not possibly fully guarantee them, fully guarantee. That's what's in the CBA. What the owners have done is they've come around and they've said, hey, technically it's a loophole. If we add into a contract that we can default for some specific reason, even if the specific reason's not spelled out specifically, we can default on the guarantees and we don't have to pay them. That's contract law for you, though. If you can contract around a CBA, you're allowed to.
Okay.
So yeah, since 2011 they've been fully guaranteed, or the promise of fully guarantees. And you look at, I think Trent Richardson was the first player that had his fully guarantees defaulted, and all he did is he missed a plane flight to I believe a game. But even before the game, there was a walkthrough, and he missed that because he was tending to his pregnant girlfriend who was sick and in the hospital, which I think human nature, to me, that sounds like a pretty good reason to miss a team flight. Not the game, but just the team flight, to be by his sick girlfriend in the hospital. So what did Indy do? Because he was traded from Cleveland to Indy. Indy gets that full contract when you trade a player. They voided his guarantees. They said that was conduct detrimental to the club. Voided his guarantees, cut him before the following season, saved himself $3.1 million on what should have been a fully guaranteed deal. That's why players don't want that in. Doesn't happen often, right? The other area to look at is someone like Jameson Williams. Jameson Williams had his guarantees voided as well when he was suspended for violations of the league's gambling policy. So that's an automatic default as well. He did that. He hasn't lost any money. He still gets paid everything because he's playing. He's still part of the team. But if for any reason, and this won't happen, if for any reason the Lions want to cut him, his contract's no longer fully guaranteed. Then we also saw it, tough to bring up, but we saw it with Henry Ruggs and that unfortunate incident involving the loss of life of the young lady and her dog. Henry Ruggs voided those guarantees as it should have been, and then subsequent to that, his contract was terminated. That gives you, an exact example of it working in how it should work, right? There's no question about that. No question about that incident, that unfortunate incident. But that's what that's for. Not so if the club says, I think this conduct arises to something that we believe we don't like. That's what conduct detrimental is. It's subjective. It's subjective to whatever the club wants it to be.
So the clubs decide this. There's not some agreement that the NFLPA has come out with. If that clause is in there with it meets these qualifications, because I think it's reported there's like 11 teams or so that don't have this clause in there yet. So we could still see this come up again in the future. And it's just kind of, like you're saying, vague language that anyone could just say, okay, yeah, you made me mad. I don't like you. I'm taking your money.
Yeah. It's not per se in the CBA, right? There are instances in the CBA that do highlight certain violations. Teams they're not subject to pay their players. Violation of performance enhancing substances, violation of substance abuse, right? Like all of those things are in the CBA, and the penalties are outlined for each violation, subsequent violations, suspensions without pay. Because even if your contract's fully guaranteed and you do that and you're suspended from the league without pay, that is without not within the realm of your guarantees, correct? So yes, there are instances where the CBA does highlight that and says that. What the owners are doing is they're adding their own subjective qualifiers to what could void a guarantee.
All right. I think that clears it up so much more. I think that will help a lot of fans kind of understand what's happening here, and should ease some worries about him possibly getting arrested. I don't think anyone saw that as being an issue until that was kind of brought up as a possibility for that clause and how hard they were fighting it.
The other part of that doesn't get brought out in light of this is I'm trying to remember it verbatim. It's conduct that materially undermines the respect of the club, right? What does that mean, Josh? What does that mean to you?
Conduct that
undermines the respect of the club.
Maybe if honestly, like kind of maybe if Shemar Stewart had been signed at the time when he came out to practice and had said the stuff about Mike Brown being cheap and just like openly speaking out against the owners, the coaches, something like that? Is that what that means?
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of these contracts they'll have like 1 strike, 2 strike, 3 strikes and you're out type of language in there with that. Other clubs don't have it at all. And you'd be surprised how many guys they don't understand. They don't know what that means. And unless you're the agent telling them what it means and giving them the examples of it, sometimes they don't hold back, right? Sometimes they call it the Pickens clause, which was first introduced with Carl Pickens back in the 90s, that he wasn't able to go to the media and bash the Browns or the Bengals. And teams have stuck with that. That was a big contention on Myles Garrett's contract when he signed it as the first overall pick, was putting that language in there, which the Browns got it in. I don't think he got anything large in return. And that could have just been, 1, maybe they just didn't have an issue with it, or 2, maybe the agent didn't see it. And I think a lot of it, that's what it is. A lot of these contracts, the agents aren't attorneys. There are like some like me who are, my business partner is an attorney as well. He's been an agent since I believe 2009. And you know, we read contracts every single day for a living. A lot of these agents don't, you know. I think some may have been, I don't even know, fresh out of grad school when they apply and get a guy. Right. I know some agents were just friends with players, and the player goes, "Hey, I trust you. Can you be my agent if you take the test and you qualify and do the application?" And they've never even seen a contract a day in their life. And some are good. Some do it and they know exactly what they're doing. Others not so much. But I think that's what happens is these agents, they just miss it. And when you miss it, you're setting the precedent for everyone else to kind of be forced into signing it.
Okay.